And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder, week 4.
Yes.
This is week 4, and an exciting week it was.
It was a good week.
A lot of interesting games. I guess we're going to get started. Friday night, a big battle of the Big Ten. Illinois versus Nebraska, 2 ranked teams. Illinois knocked off Nebraska 31-24.
First time in a long time we can say that Illinois and Nebraska were playing as ranked teams.
That's right.
So good for them. I didn't see any of this game because we were at Gate Creeper and Frozen Soul Friday night. Awesome show. Go see it if it comes near you.
That's right.
But follow along on the phone during the concert. Also texting Jerry, who is a big Illinois fan, so he was very nervous because this was back and forth for most of the game. Saw the highlights, and Dylan Raiola looked pretty good. He was making a lot of throws. Illinois, though, where did this offense come from? We knew they had a good defense, but they're doing well offensively. So good for them. Good for Nebraska. I think college football is much more fun when Nebraska's good.
Totally agree.
A friend of ours, Teresa, on the Facebook group, she posted a picture. She's a Nebraska fan and season ticket holder. That the students were in the stadium at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You gotta love that. You gotta love the passion. Great atmosphere in Nebraska. Unfortunately, they lost. I picked Nebraska to win, and they lost. But great win by Illinois. This is a huge win for them. Brett Bielema's got the program and going in the right direction.
Yeah, they got a big game this weekend. Syracuse lost to Stanford 26-24.
Kyle McCord once again throws for over 300 yards. I'm starting to feel, based on what we've seen from Ohio State, and we'll get to that in a second, how they looked in the first half of that game, I don't really think Kyle McCord was that big of the problem last year. He's playing really, really well in Syracuse with a lot less talented guys around him.
Well, moving right along, Texas knocked off Louisiana Monroe 51-3.
Arch Manning got the start because Quinn Ewers is down with an oblique injury. They looked like the number 1 team in the country. They did what the number 1 team in the country should do.
Dominate.
To one of these small schools. They just dominated them.
Yeah. Same thing can be said. Ohio State knocked off Marshall 49-14.
A little closer. I watched this game a little closer in the first half than they would have liked. They kind of pulled away. Quinshon Judkins had a huge game. Only had like 10 or 11 carries. But he busted like an 80-something yard touchdown run. He looked really good. TreVeyon Henderson, the guy that to me has been perpetually injured his entire career with Ohio State, scored his 40th touchdown. And I'm like, holy crap, like this dude was going lights out when he was there his freshman and sophomore year. But he's been hurt quite a bit, so hopefully he can stay healthy for them. But they look good.
That's right. Ole Miss knocked off Georgia Southern 52-13.
Another big game by Ole Miss. They did what they're supposed to do against these kind of opponents. So we'll wait till the SEC play starts this week for them.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens, but I don't think they're going to win these games as easily. None of these SEC teams are going to start winning as easily as they did the first couple weeks of the season.
Speaking of big SEC matchups, Tennessee knocked off Oklahoma 25-15.
It wasn't as close as the score indicates.
That's right.
I predicted a 20-point Tennessee win, and they were well on their way to that. They let a garbage time touchdown by Oklahoma. But Tennessee did not play well offensively. Nico fumbled twice. They got to him a handful of times. I didn't think he looked good running the football. He had only one decent run. He had a couple of nice passes. Apparently, according to the commentators, though, this wasn't his sharpest game. But they took it to Oklahoma, who had no offense. Oklahoma's defense, will give them credit.
Yeah.
Dude, they were fun to watch. Tennessee is a big rushing football team, and Oklahoma was there to stop that run for a majority of the game. Those guys came to play the defensive side of the ball, but man, they had no help offensively. Jackson Arnold looked bad, but the commentator kept saying, well, it's not his fault. It's the offensive line. If they can't block, there's not a whole lot what your quarterback can do. I'm like, yeah, I agree. But the interception was bad. Nico fumbles, like inside the 10. Oklahoma recovers. Very next play, they call a really bad play, and the quarterback fumbles. Tennessee gets it right back. That happened twice in this game, where it was a turnover by Tennessee. Oklahoma gives it right back. Both of them were Nico and Jackson Arnold giving them back. So they benched him, which I didn't really feel was the right call or the smartest play because in this day and age of football. Think about keep transferring,
Right.
right? But they got some playmakers on offense. They just couldn't get it done. They couldn't block Tennessee's front seven. Tennessee's got a really freaking good defense. Yeah. Holy crap. That defensive line, golly, they're going to beat some teams that you wouldn't think they're going to beat this year, probably Alabama and Georgia. I'm not saying they're going to beat both of them, but I think they're going to get one of them. Yeah. But Tennessee looked good, even though they didn't play that well.
That's right. Well, speaking of teams that came to play, Vanderbilt almost knocked off Mizzou last week after losing to Georgia State. Mizzou knocked them off 30-27 in OT.
And Vandy missed a tying field goal in overtime to send it to double overtime. Mm-hmm. You hate to see a game like that come down to a damn field goal kicker.
But it's Vandy.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Before we go on, I do want to mention, I read this today with Oklahoma-Tennessee. The first SEC game for Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. An Oklahoma fan was overheard in the concourse going, where the hell did all these effing Tennessee fans come from? And the guy that tweeted that out, I guess he was there. He was a college football writer.
Right.
So he was there, I'm assuming. And it was like, welcome to the SEC Oklahoma. This is what away teams do in big games like this. They travel.
That's right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Bama knocked off South Florida 50-15. Cam Moore. Miami. Excuse me. Miami knocked off South Florida 50-15.
Miami looking good.
Yeah.
Cam, he got knocked down to like the number 2 in the Heisman race this year by Travis Hunter. Come on. Cam Ward, right now, as it stands, after 4 weeks, this is his award to win. He looks good. Miami looks good. I watched the U Part 2. I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
On Netflix. The U Part 2 is on there. It kind of covers like the late 90s, early 2000s. Pretty good. If you want to watch a cool college football documentary on Netflix, it's like an hour and a half. Check it out. It's good.
Yeah. Penn State knocked off Kent State 56-0.
Yeah, Drew Allen looked good. Drew Allen looks good against these kind of teams. Wait till they play somebody with a defense.
So the next two we're talking about here, most surprising.
And by the way, the college football final made fun of Penn State so bad in this game. And they basically said the same thing I did. They go, oh, yeah, they can do this. Wait till they play somebody with a pulse or a heartbeat.
So after Michigan got run down by, Alabama, and USC's been playing pretty good, Michigan rose up and took down USC 27-24.
This was an awesome game. I watched it early on. It looked like Michigan had it in hand. They were imposing their will physically. They weren't running the football really good, but they were running it well enough. Yeah. As the game wore on, USC's offense started to find their groove. Guys were getting open that weren't getting open the first half. They were coming back, and at the same time, their defense was stepping up, stopping the run, which I was very surprised. But they kind of knew they were running it because Michigan can't throw the football. Right. Orgy's not a quarterback. They don't have anybody on that roster right now. Yeah. They don't have anybody on the roster right now that can win them football games throwing the football. So USC was able to just basically stack the box, put the main tight ends out, but they put a safety on the backup tight end, and they were able to stop them. Mm-hmm. And they took the lead. Huge run play towards the end of that game by Mullings to basically break the safety's tackle. Broke a couple tackles, and they have a huge run, gets them down there. 4th and goal, they punch it in. Mm-hmm. Good for them. I thought the play calling wasn't that great by Michigan, as it was, by the way, with Oklahoma. That was terrible. That offensive coordinator for both of those schools needs a good talking to. Mm-hmm. I think Sharon Moore, the head coach, calls the offensive plays. Not good, but again, they can't throw the forward pass. So his hands might have been tied. But I will say this. USC looked defensively a lot better than they did last year. Yes, they kind of got out-physicaled for a decent amount of the game, but they're much more physical than they were last year. I thought they held up against Michigan pretty well.
It's a tough road opponent. USC going to Michigan, that's a big game.
It is a huge game. I don't know what Michigan was doing. They had the fans, like one section, like the maize and blue, but when they panned away, it looked like there was a shitload of USC fans there, which I'm sure they were, but it looked like way more than there actually was.
LA coming to Michigan.
Yeah, but I mean, great game. Michigan, we talked about it last video, like possible separation Saturday. Not quite, but Michigan got a big win. But I still think USC has a good chance of winning that conference. Just the way they played, the way their offense moved the football and scored against Michigan's defense. I think they're going to be tough to beat because they're going to be able to put up a lot of points. Yeah. We're talking about the Big Ten. Other than Ohio State, I don't think anyone's going to outscore USC.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, just see how the season kind of develops. It's early.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win the thing, but I think they're going to be in contention, and I said that weeks ago.
Yeah. Utah knocked off Oklahoma State 20-19. Oklahoma State is that program.
Just
that opportunity wasted.
Yep. Every year there's one of these games and they got to lose, and then usually they find a way to lose another one or two that they shouldn't have any business losing.
Yes.
Cam Rising didn't play. Young Zach Wilson, BYU fame and NFL flame out. Is his younger brother. God, he was so good at BYU. I can't figure out that guy's not awesome in the NFL. But his younger brother is a true freshman at Utah. Played well. Played well. They're tight ends at Utah. They just reload tight ends every freaking year. There's a bunch of them. Oklahoma State just they came back at the end, but it was ugly. They were down a lot late in this game, and like I said, they came back at the end, but. What's going on with him? Gundy has been there a long time. He's one of him and Whittingham, like some of the, I think 2 of the longest tenured coaches. And the guy, he wins like 7, 8 games, 9 games a year. Should have won a conference title 2 years ago, but they just can't ever get over the hump.
Mm-hmm. They'll lose one game that makes no sense.
Yeah.
And they're not like Oklahoma's not in that conference.
He's like kind of reminds me of Mark Richt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think as successful, but. A little bit poor man's version of Mark Richt.
Every 2 or 3 years, he puts the team together.
Yeah, and I really like the guy. I want them to win.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching Oklahoma State football. I enjoy watching them win when they're playing well.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy watching this game. It was boring as shit.
Kansas State lost to BYU 38-9.
Kansas State looked good last week. They struggled, I think, with SMU. BYU struggled with SMU. I did not think in a million years this outcome was going to happen. BYU is now atop the Pac-12 standings at 4-0, unranked. They'll probably be ranked now.
Yeah.
Kansas State, man, they're kind of like the Oklahoma State for this year. Like there was high hopes for these guys. You shouldn't be losing this game.
Yeah.
Still, everything's in front of them still, but I was disappointed to see them lose.
Right. LSU knocked off UCLA 34-17. LSU's going to have one of those seasons where they're just going to kind of back into it, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I thought for a while in this game, they looked like they wanted to lose to both of the Los Angeles schools, and then their offense just took over. Their offense is really, really good. Problem is their defense is really, really bad. I mean, it's a little bit better than last year when they had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and still only won like 7, 8 games.
It seems like their offense is a little further ahead than their defense is.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
When if they ever get together, they could be dangerous.
Notre Dame won 28-3 against Miami.
Don't care.
Ohio. Don't care either. Kind of a semi-big game. Louisville knocked off Georgia Tech 31-19.
Yeah, Louisville is right there. Ranked number 19 in the country. They'll probably move up a little bit. They're playing well. I don't know much about them. I've only seen a few. I mean, when I say minutes, like I've watched a couple of their games, like flipping back and forth between other games. So I haven't watched a ton of Louisville. But I like it when they're good as well. They're one of those schools that's
kind of exciting.
They're exciting. They're a little bit smaller in my perception, but when they're good, it's fun.
They used to play on Thursday nights.
Yeah, they would black jerseys. The crowd would be all black. It'd be a Thursday night football or Friday night football. Mm-hmm. It'd be like so much fun watching those games.
That's right. Iowa State knocked off Arkansas State 52-7.
Didn't see any of this.
Interesting matchup. Clemson knocked off NC State 59-35.
NC State is just one of those teams where they're going to start the season ranked 23rd, 24th, or 25th, and then lose 5 games that year. Clemson's offense looks really good the last
back in there.
Few weeks, man. I don't know. Is Georgia's defense just that good? Like, I know that Georgia's defense is really good against certain kind of offenses. Was this one of them? They didn't have a dynamic back. He's more of like a slow-running bruiser. Mm-hmm. Cade Klubnik is very athletic. He can run, and they didn't let him run. He ran in this game, had a long, like 70, 80-yard touchdown run. Those kind of QBs give Georgia problems, but they didn't let him do that. He basically stayed back there. They don't have, like, the most polished wideouts, and he's not the most polished QB, so maybe that hurt them against Georgia, and now they're just opening it up. I don't know, but they're like you said, creeping back in, ranked number 21. They got 1 loss. It's an out-of-conference loss.
Number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're still looking at easily
playoffs still are there for them.
Yeah,
if
I
they
mean,
want it.
getting, I think it's not easy, but they don't have a very difficult road to get to the ACC championship game.
That's right. Northern Illinois knocked off Buffalo 23-20.
Didn't see any of this
Didn't
game.
see it. Texas A&M beat Bowling Green 26-20.
Yeah, I had to laugh. They tweeted that out like it was some kind of accomplishment. I'm like, dude, you almost lost to Bowling Green. Stop.
And the battle of who sucks more, Florida against Mississippi State. Florida knocked off Mississippi State 45.
Yeah, we have our answer. Mississippi State's bad at football.
Bad.
Florida's bad at football, but man, they looked really good. That first half, they were moving the football at will. I watched this game. Graham Mertz was like freaking Heisman Trophy candidate. I mean, I'm like, where has this team been?
That's right.
You know, they looked good. Second half, they kind of let them back into it. There was some penalties, some stuff like that, but they looked good.
Speaking of bad, North Carolina gave up 70 to James Madison. James Madison knocked off North Carolina 70-50.
You score 50 points and still lose the game. That's awful. There are people, fans, and alumni calling on Mac Brown to retire. It was in there that somebody gave him like either the ultimatum or some kind of suggestion or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel bad for him. I like Mac Brown. He's a decent coach, but the guy's old.
Yeah.
I think it's time for him to hang it up. I think he will after this year. I think this is it. But you score 50 points and lose. 50 points is a pretty damn good offensive output.
He's had some soul-sucking losses in the
He
past
has, and their
couple of
defense for years has just been so bad.
And it shouldn't be. They've got a lot of talented
Yeah,
coaches.
North Carolina puts out a lot of guys. Georgia gets a bolt ton of their dudes out of North Carolina, mainly on the defensive line. They're always getting guys out of North Carolina. Those dudes go to North Carolina, and maybe they don't give up 70 freaking points.
Speaking of just crazy games, Colorado knocked off Baylor in overtime, 38-31.
I watched that game, and I was so happy. 2 seconds left. I'm like, Colorado's going to lose. And then they threw the touchdown pass. And I was like, you got to be shitting me. I cannot believe what I just watched. Like, you watch the highlights, you can see, if you watch the game, you can see it too, but they had three guys on the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
The dude closest to that catch let Shador throw the football and did not react till way too late. You can see it on the replay when they show from behind Shador.
Yeah.
He's standing there in the end zone like this, and then he reacts. By the time he reacts, that ball is already going to that guy's arms. Once they scored the touchdown, I knew the game was over. I knew they won the game.
That's right.
You hate to see the way they lost with the kid fumbling in the end zone like that, but it is what it is. I mean, they look. I want Colorado to lose all the games. I just think it's a shit show up there. I think a lot of things that are wrong with football, wrong with college football, in my opinion. And I have nothing against NIL, paying guys, transfer portal. I just think some of the stuff that's wrong with it that I don't like about it is glowing out of Colorado. And I like Deion. I kind of like him as a head coach. It's not him that I'm not a fan of. But another cool game I watched at night was BC. So they played Michigan State, and they were losing. And they ended up scoring a touchdown late in the game to win at the Red Bandana game, which is a pretty important game for BC. So that was pretty cool to watch that game.
Cool.
Sneaky good BC.
Yeah, they beat Florida State, but who hasn't, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, moving on to next week's game. Starting out Friday night, we got Miami, Virginia Tech.
That'd be a good game.
Yeah, playing in Hard
We're
Rock
probably
Stadium.
going to miss a lot of football this week.
Probably so.
I mean, thankfully, I got my phone. I'll be able to watch as much as I can. I'll be able to follow along.
I think we'll see plenty of football.
Yeah, I'm a big enough fan where, like, even when I'm out of pocket, like, I'm checking stuff. If I'm at the games, I'm still checking stuff. This weekend, I was home the whole weekend. Excuse me, except for Friday night, but Saturday, I probably watched a good 25 games on Saturday. I watched 2 more on Sunday. So, I mean, but it's just going to be a weird weekend. But I'm going to try to follow along as much as possible because Ole Miss is finally playing a team with a pulse. Kentucky, they're not that great. They had a good win Saturday.
They gave Georgia all they wanted.
They gave Georgia all Georgia wanted. But finally, Kentucky's got some physical guys on defense.
If they're hanging in there late.
They've got a couple of good wide receivers. I still think Ole Miss should roll.
Yeah.
It's at Ole Miss.
So.
But it's a little bit more potent of an opponent than they've been playing.
And then you got Oklahoma State, Kansas State at 12 o'clock. That should be
a game of the two biggest disappointments from last weekend. Who's going to right the ship?
That's right.
Honestly, I don't have a clue.
That's right. You got
when it comes to these teams right now, you can't, predict.
Who's going to be what? You got Minnesota taking on Michigan at the Big House at noon. You got Nebraska and Purdue. Get back on the right turn, right ship, go back and win you another game.
Yeah, get back in the win column against Purdue.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Nebraska's not a bad football team. I don't think Purdue's much of a slouch either. They got some transfers.
That's right.
That's what's changing college football. You get 2 or 3 transfers on a team.
All of a sudden, you
get another win or two in the season.
Save somebody's job. Northern Illinois at NC State. Can NC State bounce back and gets to rank the
Probably not. Probably not. They're just bad at football.
Let's see what else we got here. BYU Baylor.
That'd be a good game.
Yeah. Wisconsin at USC. At 3:30.
Louisville at Notre Dame. That'd be a good game.
Ranked teams.
Arkansas at A&M. It'll be a tough SEC matchup of teams that don't score a lot of points. Colorado at UCF would be a good game.
Ooh, they've been playing down south.
Not super ranked opponents. You got Oklahoma at Auburn. Oklahoma will right the ship in this game because Auburn's just bad at football.
Yeah, probably so. North Carolina's got Duke. Wow.
Mississippi State at Texas. Poor Mississippi State is about to get 50 burger put on them.
We got Ohio State at Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan's going to get smoked.
Yeah.
Stanford at Clemson. We'll see if Clemson can continue the winning ways.
At 7:30.
Game of the week.
Georgia at Alabama. You get a ticket for $254.
I think Alabama's going to absolutely smoke Georgia. I really do. I don't think Georgia's got it this year. I just don't think Georgia has it this year. And
there's just a lot of injuries right now.
There's a lot of injuries on the defensive line, which hurt them against Kentucky. And I thought the defensive line actually played pretty well for 3 quarters against Kentucky.
And then
they just didn't have the guys, and they were out there the whole game. So they started running the football a little bit more effectively against the Dogs. Though most of those guys apparently were back. There's 3 starters out on the defensive line. At least 2 of them should be back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think Georgia's problem isn't even on defense. I think it's on offense. Their offensive line is not good. I think Alabama, their weakness is their defense. The strength of that team is their offensive line. I still think Alabama's going to be too much. I think they're going to score just, obviously too much and win the game. But you know what I mean? I don't think Georgia's going to be able to keep pace. And I think it's going to be a massive letdown for Georgia. This could really hurt the program. There's going to be a lot of recruits involved. People are going to kind of see that Georgia just can't beat Alabama. It wasn't Saban that you couldn't beat. It was Alabama as a whole. This is as must-win for Georgia as it gets. It's the 4th game of the season for them.
It'd be nice to knock them off, but it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if Georgia's got the horses.
I don't think they do, and it doesn't matter. You lose this game, you probably lose another one. You're still in the playoffs if you're Georgia. You can never say you're not going to get them again. I mean, it happened a couple years ago. Yeah. But I just think Alabama's too good. And just like a couple of years ago with Alabama, if you don't knock them off early, well, now it doesn't really matter because 12-team playoff. But last year, you saw what happened. If you don't knock them off early, they just keep getting better and better. Milroe wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But you can't knock them off.
They just hang around.
And they just hang around. I mean, Texas was able to do it, but they weren't in the SEC yet.
Move right along. Illinois has got Penn State at 7:30 as well, so that's another interesting game. Maybe Illinois could
2 ranked teams.
Yeah.
I think Illinois should be ranked a little higher after that win.
Yeah.
At Penn State, I predict Penn State will win, but this is going to be the toughest defense Penn State's faced all year.
Yeah, you got Oregon against UCLA at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock at night. Arizona at Utah, the big game. Washington State at Boise State. I think Boise State's, if you look at the Heisman Trophy race, I think that running back they got should be
in the discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, he just got a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that concludes this week's games. We'll try to do a video sometime next week.
Might be from the airport.
Maybe.
Might be from a hotel in Mexico. Might be from on the airplane. Who knows?
Who knows? You
don't
guys
want to go too long without doing the recap because that Georgia Alabama game is going to be worth talking about.
That's right. One way or the other. You guys have a good week.
See ya.